We now move into 8.2, which is talking about early challenges that President Washington faces as our first Commander-in-Chief. So, there he is. So, let's talk. President Washington has a variety of challenges. We had discussed in Section 1 mostly the issues concerning his economic challenges, dealing with the various debt issues and items such as that. Here we are going to move into some other ideas. The challenges that he has here at home, and the name for them are going to be called domestic issues. So if that's a new term to you, make sure you understand what it means. It's things that occur inside the United States with American peoples. The other ones are going to be abroad or overseas, and those are obviously going to be either foreign or international. So let's get after the first one. So on your chart, you have early challenges, domestic, and this one is in 1791. And I had given you the clue that it was in the Northwest Territory. So the first one you should have is that Native Americans, Indian tribes were attacking new American settlements on the frontier along the Ohio-Indiana border. And you can sort of see right here is where we're talking. And then gives a general overview of where it looks like in the map. The attacks are led by a Miami chief, and his name is Little Turtle. There is Little Turtle. Okay. Little Turtle is the leader of the Miami. They are native peoples to that area of what today is the United States. I know that many of you, of course, think of Miami and you think of Florida, but the answer is no. Miami is originally, their homeland is the area of Ohio and Indiana. So this was the challenge, so let's now talk about the response, the solution. How is it handled? So what Washington does is he sends a general by the name of Arthur St. Clair and about 1,200 men out. There's Arthur St. Clair. And he is basically sent out to deal with these issues and these Indian attacks. He is a governor of the actual Northwest Territory. So his numbers are anywhere between 900 and 1,200 men that he is leading. The problem that happens is that his forces are attacked by Little Turtle, and it turns into one of the worst defeats in the history of the United States military. So bad that it's referred to as St. Clair's defeat or the Battle of the Wabash.
Desertion continued to take
By
its toll. By November, St. Clair had barely 1,000 able troops. On the evening of November 3rd, his force had set camp near the headwaters of the Wabash River. The camp was poorly prepared. They had failed to build any defensive works. While St. Clair's force had been dwindling, the Western Confederacy had been gathering warriors. Around 1,000 had come to the area ready to fight. Led by a Miami chief named Little Turtle, they attacked at dawn. As the American troops who had not sent out scouting parties were mustering for breakfast. Little Turtle attacked the militia first, who were quickly overrun, and ran without collecting their guns. St. Clair's regulars were able to form a line and fire volleys, but they were continually flanked. As the American artillery tried to deploy, their crews were killed by Indian marksmen. The regulars attempted to drive back the Indians with bayonet charges, but that allowed the Indians to isolate groups and overwhelm them. As the soldiers fell, the camp followers joined in the desperate fight. Finally, facing annihilation, St. Clair ordered a retreat, forcing the force to leave behind its supplies and its wounded, who were slaughtered. St. Clair's defeat at the Battle of the Wabash had the highest casualty rate of any battle in the history of the United States Army. Of 930 troops, 632 were killed, and 264 wounded. A casualty rate of 97%. Nearly a quarter of the entire U.S. Army was lost. In addition, virtually all the camp followers were also killed. As for the Western Confederacy, on the other hand, their losses were only about 20 killed and 40 wounded.
I hope you understood what was going on there, and it was such a savage defeat that this man, Arthur St. Clair, was actually court-martialed, which means he was brought up on charges for what they call dereliction of duty, meaning he had done such a poor job that he was punished for it, and his punishment was going to be his execution. But his friend, because he was a friend of the president and he had served under him during the American Revolution, decided that it was not really necessary to have one more soldier die because of this incident and this defeat. The location of the battle, I'll show you here on the map, Again, you sort of see the Indiana outlines here. I know you guys are not familiar with Indiana geography. There's Indianapolis, okay? But the point is, it's right up here at the headwaters. They talked about the Wabash. You can sort of see it if I take this away. So there's the Battle of the Wabash, or St. Clair's defeat. We're now moving over to the next challenge, again in the same area, the Northwest Territory. So I asked, what is the challenge? The challenge is Native Americans continue to attack new American settlements out in the frontier. So I'm answering the question of, how or why is it a actual threat, an actual challenge. So the settlements here in the Northwest Territory, remember this area here is considered the Northwest Territory. All that land that is north and west of the Ohio River. So this is the challenge for 1794. We'll move on now to how is it handled. So again, there is going to be a military solution to this. So no, it's not going to be Arthur St. Clair again. This time Washington sends Anthony Wayne to stop the attacks. Here's Anthony Wayne. He's a Pennsylvania-born guy. He grew up around the Philadelphia area. Today there's a little town that bears his name, Wayne, PA, and also Waynesboro. But he is a Revolutionary War general and somebody who served with Washington, so he trusts him. And so Mad Anthony Wayne goes out there, and he is leading a better force, a better trained force. And in the summer of 1794, so about 18 and a half months later, Wayne's forces attack this time and defeat forces led by a different Indian by the name of Blue Jacket, a Shawnee chief. And that battle would be known as the Battle of the Fallen Timbers, or the Battle of Fallen Timbers. The reason for the name of the battle is simple. The location where it takes place, previously during the summer, there were some bad thunderstorms that knocked down many of the trees, and so when they interviewed and asked people about the battle, veterans referred to it as the Battle of Fallen Timbers. Continuing on, so it is the Battle of Fallen Timbers, and when the Indians are defeated, they are forced to sign a treaty. This treaty would be known as the Treaty of Greenville, in which they are forced to give up much of what is today southern and eastern Ohio. So if we go to the next screen here, put up old Anthony over there, let's show you some pictures. So this would be a scene, you can sort of see this is just an inset right here. This would be Anthony Wayne. This would be, of course, Blue Jacket and his Indian followers. And then here is a better map to show you in purple the Indian sessions. And I know it's really hard to see, but a session is meaning you are forced to give something away. And so the point is, that is what happens here. Okay, so this is the Treaty of Greenville and the end of the second event and second challenge. The last one, 1794. And I give you the definition and the explanation of Western Pennsylvania. This is one we have talked about previously. That is the Whiskey Rebellion. Farmers in Western PA had refused to pay the new tax, and so they do that, and they go one step further, and they basically begin to destroy things and attack individuals. And Washington cannot stand for that. So you got these crazy Western farmers who say, we're not going to pay this tax. They even get to the point where they create a Whiskey Rebellion flag. And this is the new challenge that's going on. And you can sort of see the date is somewhat overlaps with some of the other issues. So now I'm going to click on this and move to this is a website that I shared out with you. If you cannot find it and it doesn't work here, go to the Mount Vernon website. And it's B Washington. You can also search for it that way. So here you go. Enjoy. So once you click on the mountvernon.org and try and get to this place, this is the overall website for the home of your first president, Mount Vernon. So you come here, and there's various things you can do. You can, visit. Of course, there's all kinds of things that you can do, virtual tours and all kinds of stuff. You can learn about slavery, the Constitution, all kinds of stuff, his family, the grounds. But I'd like you to come down here where it says B Washington, and you go all the way down here, and you say, I want to play online. And when you play online, and I know you guys can barely see it, you just click on this single player, and it takes you to this, and you pick a scenario, and I want you to pick the Whiskey Rebellion. So as we do this, this is what happens, and it turns into kind of like a little movie. So I'll let it play, and then I'll pause it.
here, then evacuate the property, lay down your arms, or suffer the consequences.
Sir, the local militia attacked the home of the tax collector last night in western Pennsylvania. They destroyed everything on his farm. Several people were killed, including soldiers from Fort Meade who were carrying property. And the protests of non-compliance from the citizens of western Pennsylvania for 3 years. And I fear it will not end with this. What in the state of things is proper to be done?
Welcome to the B. Washington Interactive Theater. Soon, it will be your turn to test your leadership and decision-making skills in a crisis Washington faced as President of the United States. Here's the situation. In the summer of 1794, President Washington faces one of the first tests of federal authority. 3 years earlier, Congress passed a tax on whiskey in order to generate much-needed revenue for the new federal government. The tax threatens the livelihood of small-scale farmers in western Pennsylvania, who distill their grain into whiskey in order to prevent their crops from spoiling during the long journey to eastern markets. By the summer of 1794, tensions reach a boiling point when several U.S. Army soldiers are killed defending the home of a regional tax collector. You are about to step into the role of President Washington. As President of the United States, will you suspend the tax, let local officials handle enforcement, or use military force to quell the rebellion? Just like President Washington, you will have to make your decision under pressure as the situation continues to evolve. You will be able to seek advice from various advisors who represent people and sources President Washington would have consulted. But be aware, they will offer contradictory opinions, and you will not have time to hear from everyone. It will be up to you alone to decide how strongly you agree or disagree with their advice, and whether they will impact your decision as President of the United States. Now is your chance to be Washington. It's your turn to lead.
So, we're at the last part. How's it handled? We covered this already, but let's go over it. Washington does use force of 13,000 men to Western PA to enforce the tax on whiskey. Remember, he's President of the United States. He's executive. So an executive executes to carry out orders, and those orders are basically you're paying the tax. So there's a picture of a whiskey bottle made in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania right there. It is the first rebellion to test the authority of the new government. Remember, we discussed the old rebellion, which was Shays' Rebellion. It showed the weakness of the old form of government. This one, Washington leads the army out, and once he crosses the Appalachians, those men who were part of that big force basically all kind of wither away and run. The response shows the strength of that new government, and it tells people that if citizens wish to challenge a law, there is a peaceful and legal way to do it. So thus ends the domestic challenges and solutions that President Washington faced.